Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to our coffee times to talk about horror. And I have not said those words in around 3 months now, so it is crazy, but it was time to come back.
It's coffee time!
Most of you know that I was hospitalized in October and I was in the hospital for 2 months, and then I came home and I had to readjust to the new life at home. Then Christmas came around and I decided to take some time off during Christmas as well. So basically I've been gone for 3 months, but I am dying to come back with content, and I have a lot of videos now that are kind of like a backlog of videos because I still have to upload videos that are like my top 10 books of 2025, top 10 movies and all of that, and I'm still gonna be uploading those. I'm sorry that they're coming a little bit late, but this end of 2025 has been definitely a roller coaster of emotions. So before we go back to regular content, I thought that I should just sit down and talk to you about what happened, what I was, and what's the future of this channel. So I didn't want to just resume regular content and not tell you guys anything at all after being gone for 3 months, because you guys followed my pregnancy. I talked about my fertility struggles to get pregnant, and my intent was to still document my pregnancy in the third trimester and delivery and all of that, but life had other plans for me. So I'm just here to let you know what happened, because you guys have been so supportive as well. Everybody has been messaging me and sending me best wishes, and everybody has been so kind and nice to me. So I think it's best to just sit down and give you guys kind of like a recap of what has happened in the last 3 months of my life, and then I will let you know at the end my plans for the channel now entering 2026. So this is not the type of video for you if you're here for the horror book, horror movie recommendations and content. That's gonna resume very soon, but this is just a video for you guys to know where I have been for 3 months. So during my pregnancy, because I was more high-risk pregnancy, the midwives and I decided that it was time to go to the hospital so that they can do a follow-up on my pregnancy. Normally here in the Netherlands, when you're pregnant, your pregnancy is only monitored by midwives, and sometimes if there are complications or if you request it, I guess, you can go to the hospital for a follow-up. So I went to the hospital and they agreed that it was best if my pregnancy would be monitored at the hospital from now on, and I no longer had to go to the midwives. So during my checkups, they were concerned about a couple of things. I developed polyhydramnios, which means that the baby has an excess of amniotic fluid in the sac. It can be for a lot of different reasons, and it doesn't have to be anything bad. So I had extra checks done and they couldn't find anything wrong with the baby, so they just assumed that it was one of the cases where it was not explicable, it was just the way it was. But that was one of the complications that I had. Then they also realized in another of my controls that the oxygen that was being transferred to the baby through the umbilical cord was not going through 100%. Like, there were complications with the umbilical cord as well, so they were monitoring the baby all the time, and they decided at some point to send me to another hospital, like a bigger hospital that specializes in pregnancy complications and stuff like that when you are still not, ready for delivery. And they sent me to this other hospital and they said, most likely when you get there, you might be hospitalized. So I was like, fantastic. This was the 9th of October. So because I knew they were probably going to hospitalize me and I didn't know for how long, basically I went home quickly. I grabbed a couple of things, clothes, couple books, Kindle, and a couple of toiletries and things, and I was like, okay, let's go and see what they say. So when I got to the other hospital, they did all the checks as well that the other hospital had done, and they confirmed that it was a problem with the flow of the oxygen in the umbilical cord. It was nothing to be really concerned about, but it was something that they had to monitor. And then they also diagnosed me with preeclampsia, which yay for me. And preeclampsia is a condition where your blood pressure is basically really high. You get edema as well. And the problem with preeclampsia is it can get really dangerous because it affects your kidneys, your liver, even your brain. So it's something that needs to be managed and get under control, because otherwise not just the baby's life, but your life is also at risk. So I was hospitalized at 31 weeks pregnant, and I was relatively calm at this point, because I thought, okay, if anything happens, you know, I'm being monitored and I am at the hospital. I am at the big hospital that is specialized in everything. So if anything would happen, I am in the right place to be, you know, better than being home and being scared that something was going to happen and I was not going to get to the hospital on time. So they brought me to a room, I was hospitalized, and they put an IV on me, and they had to call an anesthesiologist to put an IV because my veins are basically nowhere to be found. They're very hard to find, and people have always a lot of problems trying to get blood from me and putting IVs, so sometimes they have to call the anesthesiologist for these kind of things, which fun. So they put an IV and they gave me magnesium treatment, which is very common to get your blood pressure under control, because that does get your blood pressure down. And then they tried to control my blood pressure after that treatment was done. They tried to control it with pills that are suitable for pregnant women, and they are pills for high blood pressure, but they couldn't really get my blood pressure under control. Like, it would go down and then the next day it would like skyrocket again, and it was like up and down all the time, and they didn't know what to do anymore. At the hospital, like, the board of doctors would meet every morning and discuss all the cases that they had, and they would change my medicine every day, but still they couldn't really get it under control. So it was like that for like 1 week and 1 day, and they kept monitoring me day and night. I barely could sleep at all. Also, it was not comfortable for me to sleep because I had edemas everywhere. I had edema is like a liquid retention from your body, and I had also liquid retention on my chest, so it was really hard for me to breathe at night, and I had to sleep like on a almost like inclined position, and even then sometimes I couldn't really sleep. So I was not having fun. I was already in my 3rd trimester, so I was quite big because of the polyhydramnion, so because my baby had so much liquid, the sac and everything was a little bit bigger, you know, so I had a bigger belly, and it was very uncomfortable, plus the edema on my feet, on my legs, on my chest. Even my arms and my hands were getting swollen, so everything was very swollen. And all the medication, I was kind of bedridden in a way because they wouldn't allow me to leave the department, like the wing of the hospital that I was in. So I was basically stuck there for a week and 1 day, eating hospital food, which would not recommend. I am so tired of hospital food at this point. So after a week and 1 day, they basically came in the morning and they said, we need to do a C-section right now. And it was very, very scary for me. I didn't think I was physically and mentally prepared for it, even though they had, you know, mentioned that it might happen at some point if they considered the baby was safer out than inside. And it was very scary when the time comes, even though they have spoken about this being a possibility. They were trying to get me to 35 weeks at least, but it was really impossible for them to control my blood pressure, so they decided that after 24 hours of monitoring me and baby, like I was hooked to a machine almost 24 hours just to check the baby's heartbeat and to check how I was doing. They were checking my blood pressure all the time, every 2-3 hours. Sometimes they would leave the machine going, and every 5 minutes it would take my blood pressure. Like, it was just exhausting. So after 24 hours of no sleep, being hooked to machines, and almost no food, they had to do a C-section. So I felt like I was weak and I was scared going into surgery like that. Also, I don't like surgery. I mean, who does? But honestly, what really scares me the most, and I think I've talked about this before, is the anesthesia. Like, I'm not a fan of being asleep on a table. where strangers open you up, like, no thank you. So I talked to the anesthesiologist and she came to talk to me, to calm me down and be like, this is how we're gonna do things and you're going to be awake. We're only going to use local anesthesia, so only you're asleep from your chest down, and only in rare cases where it's necessary we will use general anesthesia, but that is not the norm. So I was a little bit more relaxed when I heard that, because I just wanted to be awake. That was one of my things. So what they give you is kind of like a spinal injection, and I was scared that it was going to hurt too much, but actually it was not that bad, which is surprising to me. And I have to say that I was really lucky, because this hospital, everybody was so kind. The nurses, the doctors, the people that were in the OR room, they were so nice to me and patient and explained everything to me and tried to comfort me all the time until they started the surgery. And yeah, it's really scary because you're laying down there and they're about to pull out your baby, and you're only 32 weeks and 1 day, so you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the baby is going to be okay. That was one of my biggest concerns, was that the baby would not be okay, or he wouldn't be breathing, or I don't know. That was kind of like my biggest concern. And you're just laying there. And the thing with being awake during a C-section is that you feel everything. The anesthesia they give you removes the pain, so it doesn't hurt, but you feel, or you kind of notice that people are pulling and touching things there, and it's such a weird feeling. At some point I felt almost like I had to throw up because of the feeling that I was getting, but it's obviously, you don't feel pain, okay? Don't worry. You don't feel pain at all, nothing. But you feel things are going on there, and it's very uncomfy. So I was laying there scared to death, because this was not the end to my pregnancy that I wanted, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was not so much so scared for me, but for the baby, because I knew I was only 32 weeks and 1 day pregnant, and I was scared that there was going to be something wrong with the baby, that I didn't give him enough time to develop, that he was not going to be breathing when he came out. Like, that was like my biggest concern, not the surgery per se, because I was more relaxed knowing that it was local anesthesia, not general. So when the baby was born, they showed him to me through like a plastic screen that they have put in front of me, so I could see him, and he came out already screaming, which kind of calmed me down a little bit in that regard, because I was like, okay, his lungs are working, he's screaming, he's crying, okay, we're good, and I felt a little bit relieved, but you're still worrying because he's a small baby. Before the surgery happened, they gave me 2 steroid shots, which they give to women that have like a threatened early labor, and this helps the baby's lungs develop a lot quicker, like very quickly. In 1-2 days you can already see the effects of it. So they gave me 2 shots of steroids for that, so I was hoping that it had helped, and I think it did for sure for him. After my C-section, which was the 16th of October, and I always joke now saying this baby wanted to be an October baby, he wanted to be a Halloween baby. So after the C-section, they brought me to a recovery room, and here's where the scariest thing happened. I was in the recovery room, and they still had me with the IV available in case something would happen, and thank God, because it did. I had like a drop on blood pressure so extreme, like it went down so hard so quickly that I started to lose consciousness. And it was a very scary experience, because I was laying in bed and I started to feel sleepy, but not in a good way. I was starting to fall asleep and lose consciousness, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't stay awake. I was fighting so hard to stay awake, and I couldn't. And I started to tell my partner, I don't feel good. I feel like I'm falling asleep and I don't want to, and I cannot control it, and I'm falling asleep. And I started sweating, and I was really scared, but my main focus, my brain kept thinking, just stay awake, just stay awake, just stay awake. But I could feel I was really falling asleep and there was nothing I could do to stop it. And the doctors came into the room and they started to give me things to the IV, and they started to, help me to wake up again. And that was very scary. Honestly, that was kind of like almost like a near-death experience for me. That is the closest I've been to thinking that I was not gonna make it. And it was very, very scary. But after I regained consciousness, everything went back to normal and I didn't have any other scares like that anymore. And because the baby was already out, and the placenta is basically what is causing your preeclampsia, so they already removed the placenta, so my blood pressure was already going down by itself because the baby and the placenta were out. So that is the reason why they had to do a C-section, for two reasons. One, to protect me, because I could potentially damage my kidney, my liver, my brain, because they couldn't control my blood pressure. The edemas were getting too bad to the point where I couldn't breathe properly, so they had to get the baby out. There is no cure for preeclampsia. The only cure is delivery of your baby. And on the other hand, they were concerned about the baby because obviously they were pumping me with medicines and I was also not feeling well. Plus, they had concerns about the umbilical cord, and they decided, you know what, with all of these complications that we have, the baby is safer outside and the mom is safer if the baby is outside. So that's why they decided to do an emergency C-section that morning. Then came the NICU Life, which is very intense. I think everybody that has been through it knows that it's very intense, especially mentally for you. Because I was recovering from my C-section, I had to ask a nurse or my partner to take me with a wheelchair to see the baby, and he was in an incubator, so I couldn't hold him or anything like that. And it's very intense that you just delivered your baby and he's laying in an incubator and you cannot do anything at all to help him, and you need to trust the doctors and you just need to have faith that everything is going to work out. And nobody can, tell you that he's 100% going to make it or that he's not going to have any health issues because of his prematurity. So it's very scary life, but you just try to be strong because that's the only thing you can do for you and your baby. The nurses were super nice. They helped me to start pumping, to start trying to get milk out, because at the end of the day, at the end of the road, when the baby would be home, my preference was always to breastfeed him. So they helped me with the pump to stimulate the milk to come out, to help me collect it, give me tips. Like there was people there to help me, the specialist as well, that would come and explain everything about breastfeeding, which was very, very nice to have. And I focused on trying to get milk out as soon as possible for the baby, because that's the only thing that I felt like I could do for him. When you have a premature baby, you cannot feed them via bottle or via breast because they don't have the energy. They are premature, their organs are still developing, so they need all their energy for that. So they have to be with a feeding tube, and that's where they get the milk through. So you can pump and bring them the milk and they will give it to the baby. So I was focusing on that to give him, all the vitamins and nutrients that he needed. I think one of the hardest things of having a premature baby is that you feel robbed of your pregnancy experience, and it is a thing that you have to grieve. I had to learn to grieve my pregnancy and my delivery, because obviously things didn't go as I expected them to go. I'm very grateful and thankful that my baby is healthy and home right now, and I know how lucky I am. And I'm so thankful to all the doctors and nurses that took care of us. But you end up grieving that third trimester. You end up grieving that birthing plan you have. I had dreams of how my delivery of my baby was going to be, because this was potentially going to be my only baby that I was going to have. So I wanted it to be special, and I had my birthing plan, and I was still planning things in October, because I thought I had at least a month and a half to go, and all of that was taken away from me. And again, I know how lucky I am my baby is fine, and that is the most important thing, that me and baby are healthy. But you are grieving what was taken away from you. And I want to be completely and 100% honest and transparent with you guys. When the baby was born, I had trouble to connect with the baby, to have those motherly feelings for him from the very beginning. I think it's because he was in an incubator. I didn't really see him much. I couldn't hold him, breastfeed him. I couldn't care for him, couldn't change his diaper. Like all of those firsts that I wanted with my baby, you know, holding him for the first time, me being the first person to hold him, me feeding him the breast for the first time, me changing his diaper for the first time, all of those things were taken away from me. And I understand that I'm super lucky. I took my baby home. Other mothers are not as lucky as I was. I took my baby home. He's healthy. He's fine. He's sleeping in his crib right now. So I don't want to sound ungrateful, but this is the mental struggle that I went with. So I just want to bring awareness to that, because I think it's common and normal for NICU mothers to have like more trouble connecting with their babies from the get-go, and looking at their baby and like being so smitten with them. I don't know, I felt even guilty for not having those feelings from the get-go. And I felt like there was something wrong with me because I couldn't connect with my baby all of a sudden. Like I was so connected during my pregnancy, talking to my baby every night when I went to bed, and you know, and suddenly I was there in the NICU, and it's like this was not even my baby, you know, like there was a disconnect between me and the baby. But of course, you just need to give it time when you have a NICU baby. But it's just my experience. It might not be for all the mothers, but this is what I went through, so I just wanted to quickly also address that. A week after the delivery, this big hospital that specializes in delivery of premature babies, they sent us both back to the smaller hospital because the baby was stable, I was stable, so they sent us back. And even though the baby was still in the incubator, you know, that was no problem. They sent us back with an ambulance. And then I stayed in that hospital basically until we came home on the 9th of December. So I was in hospitals for 2 months, and that was a lot. So the small hospital they sent me to was great because they had some rooms called suites where they would put you together with your baby. So it doesn't matter if the baby is still hooked to machines, feeding tube, or if he's still in the incubator. Basically, they put his bed next to your bed so you can feed your baby, change the diapers, keep an eye on him, so you feel a little bit more like you're taking care of your baby. Finally, on the 9th of December, baby was discharged and we were allowed to take him home, which was exciting but also very scary because you are used to the baby being hooked to machines, so you know if something goes wrong, the machine is gonna beep. When you go home, there's no machines anymore. So it was a little bit scary, but I was really happy to finally be going home. So now we're both home. We have been home for a month and baby is doing great. He's growing, he's eating very well, he's doing fine. And now we are just adjusting to the new life with a newborn, which is a little bit crazy, but we're doing fine. And I have to now come up with a schedule to record my videos when I can, when he's sleeping or when daddy's taking care of him, so that I can, you know, go back to my regular uploading. However, things will change a little bit, so let's talk about my plans for the channel in 2026. So my plan for the channel is to at least upload one video per week. I'm not sure if every week I will be able to upload two. So right now I don't want to overwhelm myself, so I'm just gonna, you know, strive for one video a week. Now I'm a little bit delayed with some videos that I wanted to do for the new year because we are already on the 9th of January as I'm recording this video today. So I have a little bit of backlog, so maybe some weeks I will have two videos. We will see. I'm just gonna try my best and I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself, but I do want to go back to content because this is what makes me happy and I love to talk about horror books and horror movies. So I do want to come back already and, you know, just resume the regular content. I am not going to do any more TBR videos because right now I cannot really commit to TBRs. I have to read when I can, what I can, or what I'm in the mood for. So I'm just going to do wrap-ups, after maybe 2 or 3 months. We will see when I've read several books that I can talk to you about. So there are not going to be any TBR videos, but I'm still going to be talking about the books that I have read and talking about the movies that I have watched. I want to go back to do reading vlogs, so we shall see when I am able to start doing those again, depending on how things go, organizing work with baby. Plus we're still fixing the house because we were in the middle of it when baby was born and we had to rush then to finish his room. So there's still a lot of things that I have to do in the house, but I do want to go back to reading vlogs because I love those cozy reading vlogs. I love watching them in other people's channels, and I love doing them myself as well. I'm still gonna do movie reviews, and I also gonna do some horror book and movie recommendations, of course. I also intend to keep my upcoming books video, so every month I will let you know which new books are coming out, but those videos are gonna change a little bit. So I'm still going to talk about the new book releases that are coming out, but I'm going to add movies. And that is because I love to check which movies are coming out also every month and try to watch them as quickly as possible. So I thought I would combine it in one video, and I could make like upcoming horror books and movies, of February. And then I would probably keep my synopsis very short so that I can talk about all the things that are coming out in a more efficient, more, concise way, so that I can mention a lot of things and you guys can see which movies and which books are coming out, which is two things that I love to check anyway every month. So hopefully you guys will enjoy those videos as well, because I know you love the upcoming books videos. And if you have any ideas or content that is your favorite type of videos that I put out, or something that I don't do but you would like me to try, leave a comment down below, because I would like to, still grow this year and still try to grow the channel, even though I'm gonna have less time for recording probably because I have a little one. But I think once I get into a routine, and also my partner is helping me taking care of him so that I can record and edit and all of that, so hopefully we will get into a good routine so that I can keep up all the videos that I want to do this year for the channel. Alright you guys, thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you watched the whole thing to the end. I know this was a lengthy, chatty video. I have to go now feed the baby because he's already crying. Thank you also for still being subscribed to the channel, for all your support, all the nice words, and all of the DMs that I have received on my Instagram of people wishing me and baby well. I appreciate you so much for all the support. I felt very much loved and understood when it happened and I had to disappear from YouTube all of a sudden. You guys only had nice words for me, and that is very much appreciated, especially when I was in such a kind of like dark state of mind. So your words of encouragement and support really meant a lot for me and for baby. And now we're back home, and yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about books and movies and all things horror in 2026. So I hope that you and I have an amazing 2026, and I hope to see you all guys as always in our next coffee time. Bye!